So this is the first lecture for the online 101 course taught by me, Professor Hasselman. This is History 101 online taught at MJC. In this first little quick lecture, we're going to be talking about Westward movement, but I'm not going to be giving you details and information about this. You read 4 different readings from 4 different textbooks regarding this issue, and there's a reason why I gave you those 4 readings, because they each kind of portray and present a different aspect of Columbus's arrival, and hopefully you notice that some of the documents you were able to answer some of the questions and some you weren't, and we're going to kind of be looking at why exactly this is. Why do some textbooks say some things and some say another, as well as why does our book Zinn, our People's History of the United States, say some things, and Schweikert's Patriots History say others, and we're going to be comparing the different ideas. But before we start talking about answering this question, why did Europeans leave Europe, I want to show you this slide here. Now this is an image showing Juan He's treasure ship, about 400 feet long, compared to Columbus's ship, the Nina. And as the caption says here, between 1405 and 1433, the Chinese government sent out a series of naval expeditions through the Indian Ocean. They used some of the largest and most sophisticated ships ever built, and the expeditions were commanded by a Muslim eunuch named Zhuang He. Now, when I read about this in textbooks years ago, I had never really imagined the size compared to these European ships. And when you compare the size of this compared to Columbus's Nina, for example, and his Santa Maria was a little bigger, but nothing this size, it makes you really wonder, why did China stop sailing? Why on earth did they stop? I mean, I posed this question to some students in another class once, and they said, no, there's no wonder China stopped. They were sailing around on cruise ships, for heaven's sakes. But if you look at the size of the ship compared to Columbus's, 100 of these ships could easily have, dramatically, a little bit of hyperbole here, brought over China's entire population to North America. But why did they stop? And this is a very important question. Why is it important to look at this and understand why did China stop sailing and why did Europe stop sailing? And you answered, hopefully a lot of questions were answered in the textbook readings that you looked at, as well as some of the readings from Global Lyceum. But it's important to ask a couple questions when we're looking at these texts. For example, the question we may ask is, who discovered America? Why is it important that Columbus was the first one here? Why do we talk about Columbus's discovery of America and not the Vikings' discovery of America, or the Basque discovery of America, or the Native Americans discovering America when they came over on the land bridge from Asia and Eurasia? And then we might ask ourselves, well, why is this important? Why is it important that we have Columbus as our founder in this issue? And then, of course, we might even ask the question, who was Christopher Columbus? And every textbook has its own kind of representation. We have the bare minimum information. Maybe he was born in Verona. Maybe he did this. Maybe he did that. We aren't 100% sure. Some textbooks say it's this, and some say it's that. But why on earth do we have different views? Like, why doesn't it say the same thing? And this is what's so interesting about history and the study of history, is that there's no real definite reason why things happen or what happens. It's always an interpretation of why we think it happens and what the driving forces behind the historical significance. Now, you've done your reading on Columbus, you got some ideas of who this character is. Let's talk about some of the themes for this course. Now, the course begins in what we call in world history the modern era, the early modern era. And there are several reasons why Europe kind of jumped ahead of the rest of the world during this time period, especially if we compare it to China. And now, David Christian, in his book Big History, gives some drivers of innovation. He says there are 3. First, increased exchange networks. Second, improvements in communications and transportation. And third, increased incentives to innovate. All these things coupled together, with the third one, with competitive markets stimulating innovation while monopolies stifle innovation. And capitalist societies are those in which elites and governments are highly supportive of commercial activity. Now, these are very important to think about when we talk about Europe. So, an increased exchange network increases when there are more people to communicate ideas with each other. So the larger the populations, especially in close proximity with each other, and when you've got trade between different groups, new ideas are exchanged back and forth. Now, this leads to improvements in communication because now people want to continue communicating these ideas, as well as improvements in transportation. So, communication improvements in Europe during this time period, the early modern era, included the printing press to be able to print things faster. Transportation, we've got people using canals, people using ships, people using wagons with wheels to be able to get around. Things we may take for granted were very important during this modern era. And then, of course, increase incentives to innovate. Why did they come to the New World? For gold and for glory and even for religious purposes. But mostly there was an incentive. There was a reason to travel and reason to move out of Europe. There was increased competition because of all the different nations that were competing with each other for dominance over the European continent and eventually over the oceans as well. China, on the other hand, did not have an increased incentives to innovate. There was no need for China to expand beyond its borders because, as they saw it, they had everything that the rest of the world wanted. So there was no incentive, and China also monopolized a lot of the industry as well. So these are some very important very important information here is given because this really shows that it's these drivers are what got Europe up and going to arrive at the New World before everybody else. Now, a couple other terms that we want to talk about here is, well, why Columbus? Why was Christopher Columbus the first one here? And I have this slide called Origin Myths because there are a lot of stories in American history that have almost a mythological feel to them. So we're going to look at some of these views here. So origin myths constitute the history of the acts of the founders or the supernaturals. And a lot of people place our founding fathers as kind of these supernaturals that came up with all these ideas and innovated and were very different from their forefathers. Origin myths are considered to be true. They tell how an institution came into existence vis-a-vis the United States of America. In performing the ritual associated with the myth, one experiences knowledge of the origin and claims one's patriarchy. Every year we celebrate the 4th of July, even though the Declaration of Independence wasn't signed until August. But there's something associated with that day, and the ritual associated with it becomes very important. We celebrate Christopher Columbus every year, even though we know some of the things may not be the greatest about Columbus, but we experience this knowledge of the origin, this idea that this is where we came from. And finally, thus one lives the myth as a religion. Patriotism, celebrating Columbus Day, celebrating President's Day, all these things, we live this myth, and in a way, we formed a religion around our national ethos. So I'm not saying everything in American history is an origin myth, but these are some very important figures or things to think about when we're talking about figures and people in the United States, because they are people, yet our memories of them may have changed over time. Which brings us to our final aspect of some of the terms that we're talking about, these sociological terms that we're going to be talking about in this class. The first is this idea known as syncretism, or blending the elements of two different cultures to create something new. We're going to decide whether or not this happens throughout the course of American history, whether or not we're very blending or if we're more of kind of keep things separate. We'll be talking a lot about cultural imperialism, how we think of our culture as the most important of all the others, and the others should either conform or move away. We're going to be talking about some social structures and superstructures, and I put some examples here, slavery being a social structure. Superstructures are the things put in place in a way, the natural things, I use this term loosely, but these things put in place that allow for the social structure to exist. So racism was so prevalent in the United States, which allowed for slavery to exist as much as it did. And finally, this is a very important term, this idea known as cognitive dissonance. The idea that we modify our opinions to bring them into line with another person's actions or planned actions, which is very important when we're studying history because a lot of times our biases can really counter what we really know is true, or we think it's true, and so therefore it's difficult to unthink and unlearn the things that we may have learned in the past. So we'll be associating these sociological terms as well as these origin myths into a lot of different parts of this, over a lot of period parts of this course. Now finally, before I let you go, I have 5 pictures here. And I'm going to leave you with a question, and then there'll be a survey that follows that I want you to answer. And we're going to see how we do as a class on here. So there's 5 different pictures, all painted in the 16th century. And the question that I pose to you is, which one of these portraits is Christopher Columbus? So that ends this lecture. Feel free to play it back over and over again and really take some good notes. And once you're finished with this, there's some more assignments for you to complete as well. Thanks.